Good to go.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome along to Petrel for the 31st of October Council meeting. Great to see some people in the gallery here, so thank you for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, this meeting will be recorded to improve access to the meeting for our community. The recording will be published and be retained by Council in accordance with Council's legal obligations, and as a visitor here in the gallery, your presence may be recorded. Could we please stand for the opening prayer and acknowledgement of the country? Ladies and gentlemen, I acknowledge that we're hosting this meeting on the lands of the Bangarang people. I also acknowledge any traditional owners that may be here and present watching this meeting tonight, and pay our respects to the lands in which we meet here, and our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Thank you. Almighty God, we humbly ask that you bless and guide this council in its deliberations, so that we may truly preserve the welfare of the people whom we serve. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, I will state that at the end of every section during this council meeting, it is open for a question on relation to that item. If at the end of the evening you have another question for anyone in the gallery, you are please welcome to ask a question. We will ask you just to stand, say your name, and ask the question in public question time. You're allowed a maximum of 2 questions, and you must pose a question and can lead in with a bit of a statement on where the question comes from. Questions may be disallowed if they are defamatory, offensive or abusive, relates to a confidential matter, and relates to a matter outside the duties and functions and the powers of council. Thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, we'll move straight to it there, and we'll go to there's no granting of absences. We'll go straight to the confirmations of the minutes of our previous meeting. Councillor Benson, did you want to move the recommendation to confirm the minutes were true and correct? Dave Fuller will second that. If there's no questions from the gallery, we'll move straight to councillors. Are all those accepting? And that recommendation is carried. We'll move to item number 8, which is conflict of interest. And firstly, there is a few conflicts of interest with some articles coming up in today's meeting. So I'll move straight to Sarah Brindley first. Sarah, your conflict of interest, please, and the item number.
Thank you. I have a general conflict of interest against 14.1, which is the awarding of community grants, as I'm a member of the Wangaratta Symphony Orchestra, which is one of the applicants, but I won't need to step out because the decision making is with the councillors.
Thank you, Director. CEO McGrath.
I have a conflict in item 15.1. It's a material conflict of interest because I own land in the strategy area. And as Sarah has said, given that Council's making a decision, I won't leave for that item.
Thank you. Councillor Dave Fuller.
Mr Mayor, I've got a conflict with 14.3, material in nature, due to a family member that's adjacent to the levy.
Thank you. Councillor Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have a material conflict for 15.1 as I have a family member who owns land in the vicinity we're discussing.
Thank you, and happy to step out for both Dave and Ashley, and I'll again ask if we conflict when we come to that item. I haven't forgotten you, I've got you. Councillor Grant.
I've got a material conflict of interest on 15.1 as I've got residents in the area that have been considered under the strategy, so obviously in the meeting.
Thank you. I'd also like to state that I too, on item 14.3, have a direct conflict there, a material conflict, as I own property in that area where the levy and works are happening, so I will also step out, and Councillor Bussell will take the reins for that 14.3. So thank you everyone, I think we're covered with everybody now. We'll move on to item 9.1, which is a petition for a construction path at Talgate Drive, and I'll refer to CEO McGrath for this item.
Thanks, Mayor Rees. So we're in receipt of we're in receipt of a petition from 36 signatories in relation to wanting a crushed rock path and appropriate drainage along Tollgate Drive in Wangaratta. The recommendation is that you receive that petition and it be referred to me for consideration and response as an operational item.
Thank you. Any questions from the gallery on this item? So no, can I have someone to move that item? Councillor Fuller to move. Councillor Grant will second it. Councillor Fuller, did you need to talk on that? Councillor Grant? Any other councillor like to talk on the non-one? Okay, I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And that recommendation is carried. Thank you, CEO McGrath, for continuing that. We'll move down to, there's no council reports, but we will move to 13.1, which is the annual report. I will now hand over to Director Sarah Brindley, please.
Thank you. So under the Local Government Act, all councils are required to prepare and meet to consider and adopt an annual report for the preceding financial year. The annual report provides commentary on council's delivery of the commitments in last year's budget and the council plan, and against its strategic indicators and initiatives. Also the financial statements, performance statements and the governance checklists, which have been audited by our external auditors, and since they were last endorsed by councillors, have been separately submitted to VARGO, where they were given final approval. The annual report is now ready for councillors to consider.
Thank you, Director. Before we go to the public gallery or to move on a second, I'd like to read a report or a message on this 2022-2023 annual report. So as the Mayor, I'm pleased to present this 2022 to 2023 annual report for the rural city of Wangaratta. Over the past year, Council has rebounded and adapted as it emerged from the effects of a pandemic, alongside the backdrop of a new inflationary and economical challenges that we have. The flood events also impacted our infrastructure, and I thank Council staff who have worked hard to repair the damage to trees and roads, and who continue to do so and will do so over the following years. Many major initiatives have also been successfully delivered, and it is on these achievements that I will reflect. Council has adopted a climate mitigation and adaptation policy and a target to reduce our carbon footprint by 50%. To help achieve this, Council signed a new energy agreement last year, and all electricity now comes from renewable energy. As part of our commitment to addressing the housing challenges in the local community, Council appointed a preferred supplier to development part of the formal Ovens College site. This provides an incredible opportunity to build much needed social, affordable and key worker housing accommodation to meet the community's needs. Council has also recently appointed Tony Keenan as a social planner housing officer. To further support the building of the community reflections and pathways for inclusion, the Grit Resilience Program transitioned to a new model, bringing together community and other organisations to work towards improved mental health and wellbeing for all. Huge progress has been made on the construction of the Ned Kelly Discovery Hub in Glenrowan, and I encourage all from Wangaratta to visit this recently opened and thought-provoking attraction that has already seen tremendous interest from across Victoria and nationally. The revamped gym at our Wysek Centre opened at the Wangaratta Sports and Aquatic Centre there, receiving extremely positive feedback, and the stadium construction has made great progress. The Wysek also introduced streamlined membership options and increased concession rates in response to the increased cost of living pressure being experienced by many. I'll also state that this council voted to change our rate cap from the 3.5 issued by the Victorian Government to the maximum to 2.9. Even though small, every little bit helps. Last but certainly not least, we adopted a business case and concept design for the Creative Precinct Master Plan, setting out our vision for the future of the WPAC, which is the Wangaratta Performing Arts and Convention Centre, and our art gallery. This master plan will revolutionise these landmark buildings and provide an exciting new community space we can all enjoy. State and federal grant funding has and continues to be essential in enabling us to deliver projects such as these and great programs for our community. On behalf of my fellow councillors, I thank all community members who have had input into many consultations conducted in the last year. Your ideas, opinions and feedback are crucial in us working collaboratively towards a shared vision. I'd like to thank my fellow councillors, Councillor CEO, and all the management team and office for the hard work and the commitment to the rural city of Wangaratta. I'm proud and recognise the achievements of our council in this annual report. While challenges continue in differing forms, I hold great confidence in our community and council, and I look forward to seeing the municipality thrive into 2024 and beyond. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Director Brindley.
Thank you. So I'll just wrap up that the recommendation is for council to receive and adopt the annual report for 2022-23. Thank you.
Did you? Are there any questions from the gallery on the annual report? Thank you. Can I look for a mover? Councillor Grant to move it. Councillor Fuller, you happy to second that? Thank you. Councillor Grant, did you want to talk on the recommendation?
Well, I do, but to say first up that the annual report is a significant document, and it's one that gives a strong overview of what council does. And I think often people don't know what council does, and I think our annual report gives us an opportunity each year to look at things that we've achieved, the things that we are doing, where we're spending our money, and how council works with its community. It's a wonderful overview, as I said, and even though it's a legislative document, we have to do it, but I think it's one of those documents that, you know, in terms of historic impact on our community, it's got a place in our history as a snapshot of what council actually does. So, you know, with that, I'd like to certainly move that we recommend we move to accept the document.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Councillor Fuller. Any other councillor like to talk? Councillor Herry, please.
Is this on?
Yes.
Yes. Look, I just wanted to briefly really touch on one element, provide a little bit of clarification for anyone that's maybe looking at the emissions reporting and the drop which goes down 1% this financial year, and maybe are a little bit confused given the eco arrangement which has started. So council's procuring, as of the start of this financial year, 100% renewable energy. So there's just a bit of a phasing difference, I guess, and we'll see those emission reductions come through in subsequent reports and the benefits of that. Yeah, just provide clarification because it doesn't come through absolutely
Clearly.
Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Herry. Any other councillor like to talk on the report? Councillor Grant, did you want to move?
No, just to reinforce it, it's a wonderful document and it speaks to the work that we do.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. So I'll put the recommendation to vote. All those in favour of accepting, and the recommendation is carried. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, I
Councillor
would like to move that your message is also included in the reporting for the minutes for the coming month, so that the notes are noted in there for us, please.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Fitzpatrick to second that. Councillors all in favour? And that recommendation is carried as well. Thank you, Councillor Fuller. We'll move on to, thank you, Director Brindley. We'll move on now to 13.2, which is our draft financial hardship policy on rates 2023.
Thank you. So the draft financial hardship policy for rates is presented to councillors to consider endorsing for a period of community consultation for 28 days on the updates to the draft policy prior to adopting the final version. This policy is all about providing clarity on how ratepayers in financial difficulty will be assisted and the processes that will be available to them if they find themselves unable to pay their rates. Equally, what steps council will take to try and maximise the amount of rates that can be collected. So it gives that kind of decision-making framework for what happens if rate payments are late, and what the debt collection practices will be, and how that will be done fairly consistently and respectfully of everyone who is experiencing hardship issues. The main reason for the review of this policy is changes to local government legislation on rating and reflecting that in the policy, and in particular councils are now being held to account a bit more to make sure that there is very good documentation of any rates agreements that are in place, and that debt collection doesn't commence before an appropriate period of time has passed to enable the community to kind of get back, community members to get back on the front foot. So that's why the policy is presented, and I would also just add our usual message that for anyone who may be experiencing financial hardship, please do get in touch with Council's rate team to discuss putting a rates payment plan in place.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions from the gallery on this question, on this recommendation? Thank you. Can I look for a mover? Councillor Fitzpatrick, a seconder. Councillor Bussell. Councillor Fitzpatrick, did you want to talk on this hardship policy?
No.
Thank you. Councillor Bussell.
Yeah, just briefly, Mr. Mayor, this is something that it's pretty good for the council to do this. I'm very concerned about many of my constituents in the rural area with hardship, so I'll certainly be urging people to seek assistance financially in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Is any other councillor like to talk on the hardship policy? No. I'll put the recommendation on the vote. All those in favour? And that recommendation is carried. Director Brindley, 13.3 is our 23-24 quarter one forecast review, please.
Thank you. So again, the quarter one forecast review is presented to councillors, which provides an update on council's financial performance for the first quarter of this financial year, and proposes changes to be adopted in the quarter one revision for council to progress with. There is a decrease in the projected full-year accounting surplus of 584,000, an increase in capital works expenditure of 2.97 million, which the majority of which is works carried over from the previous financial year, and then we provide a standing quarterly update on environmental upgrade agreements. The main changes in terms of the accounting surplus are increases in materials and services in some areas which are specified in the report, and also where council has been successful in obtaining grant funding and similarly allocating materials and services to deliver those projects that are grant funded. And there's more information there in the report about the various changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. If there's no questions from the gallery, I'll look for a mover of that. Councillor Fuller, and second Councillor Fitzpatrick. Councillor Fuller, did you want to talk on that? No, thank you, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Any other councillor? No, we'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour, and the recommendation is carried. Director Ridley, thank you for your update in items 13. I'll now move to Director Goonan for the community infrastructure, and 14.1 is our community grants program for 23-24. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is presented to Council to provide recommendations in relation to the 23-24 Community Grants Program. The Community Grants Assessment Panel recommended 29 projects for funding, with 12 projects being delivered in urban Wangaratta, or benefiting people across the municipality, and 17 projects being delivered in the rural areas. The total recommendation for funding is $141,001. The Community Grants Program received 54 applications, and we thank the community for putting those applications in and taking the time. There was more than $405,000 that was asked for in funding. Upon approval of successful and unsuccessful applicants will be notified via email, and I urge all unsuccessful applicants to please reach out, contact council staff, have a conversation about how you might be able to improve your application, or how we might be able to assist you so that you can receive those community funding moving forward. The recommendation as it is that council awards the total amount of $140,001 to the 29 projects detailed in the confidential attachment.
Thank you. Any questions from the gallery? No, thank you. I do have one question, Director Goonan. Unsuccessful applicants are certainly allowed to apply for the same project in another round of grant funding.
Yes, absolutely. Again, I would stress that it would be great if they could contact council officers so we could give them some feedback on why their grant may not have been successful this time. As you can see, when we're trying to push $405,000 into 140, it may just be that there was applications that were a bit more polished. It doesn't mean it was a poor application.
Great. Thank you. I'll look for someone to move this recommendation. Councillor Benton and Councillor Fuller to second it. Councillor Benton, did you want to talk on the recommendation?
I just like to say it's one issue really I think this council does to connect, and as Director Goonan has said, the 17 in the rural parts of the municipality that really is something that I think something to be noted in relationship to going forward, and it is a long list that I went through and had a look at it, and quite a substantial variation in the requests that come through, which I think gives us a bit of a positive understanding of what things are out there in our community.
Thank you. Councillor Fuller, did you want to talk as a second? No? Any other councillor want to talk on the community grants? Now I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And that recommendation is carried on. Now hand over to Councillor Fuller to let us know from the confidential attachment on who the lucky applicants were. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rowley Memorial Park Committee, $7,615. Zach's Place Incorporated, $2,000. Millwall Cricket Club Incorporated, $10,000. Lion Wangaratta, $3,000. Greta Cricket Club Incorporated, $6,000. Foster's Lake Waterhole Reserve in Glenrowan, $2,645. Moreau Football Netball Club Incorporated, $10,000. Inner Wheel Club of Wangaratta Incorporated, $1,000. Wangaratta City Soccer Football Club, $2,000. Everton Hall and Sporting Complex Asset Management Committee, $2,658. North East Multicultural Association, $2,000. Wangaratta Symphony Orchestra Incorporated, $10,000. Blind Sports and Recreation Victoria, $1,542. North East Windsport Club Incorporated, $8,000. Moreau Action Group Incorporated, $1,550. Wangaratta Cycling Club, $4,500. Sustainable King Valley Incorporated, $3,500. Glenrowan Public Recreation Reserve, $7,000. Dirrawari Indigenous Network, $3,200. Friends of the Warby Ovens National Park, $5,367. Millwall Rackets Club Incorporated, $9,200. Trust for Nature, $4,500. Glenrowan Our Town Incorporated, previously known as Glenrowan Improvers, $2,090. Randland Incorporated, $7,698. King Valley Children's Services Group, $10,000. Moreau Bowling Club, $1,650. The Wangaratta Historical Society, $3,625. Wangaratta and District Men's Shed, $3,660. And Gateway Health, $4,000.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. On that note, we've accepted. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to the next item. So thank you, Director Goonan. 14.2, which is our gambling policy.
This report is presented to Council to endorse and place the draft gambling policy 2023 on public exhibition, seeking feedback from the community, and that feedback will be included, will include on the draft action plan. So, Council's committed to developing a gambling policy through its municipal health and wellbeing plan and also the council plan. Council acknowledges that while gambling is a legal form of entertainment, it causes significant harm to vulnerable members of our community. Council are looking to adopt a public health approach, recognising levels of harm created by gambling ranges from no harm through to very severe levels of harm. This harm may be experienced by not just the person who gambles, but also by their family, friends, and the wider community. The recommendation is that Council endorses the draft gambling policy and places it on public exhibition for 28 days from the 2nd of November. Reviews and considers all submissions. and any amendments that need to be made to the policy, and if no submissions requiring changes to the gambling policy are received, adopts without further resolution. Can I just clarify that we will only be seeking council endorsement of the policy, even though we are sending out the action plan for community consultation? It's only the policy that gets adopted by council.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions from the gallery? Please.
First, can I just clarify that no members of council are members of either the Wangaratta RSL or the Wangaratta Club? Is that accurate? Okay.
I was a member of that, but I haven't signed back up for years now. Well, the RSL club, but no.
And that's a $10 membership.
Yeah, that's $10 membership.
Well, I'm a member of the RSL club with a $10 membership just to go there and have dinner.
Does being a member not constitute a conflict of interest?
Not a general member of an organisation.
If you're on the board as a member of the
Yes.
board.
Cool. And I got a second longer question. So I apologize for the length of it, but it does need a bit of background. So the council plan says that the goal, one of the goals that's underpinning this policy is to reduce rates of gambling amongst the community. That is the goal, and that's what this policy should achieve. That's the goal that so far we haven't been very successful in. 2023 is the worst year on record for Wangaratta gambling losses. In the 5-year period prior to COVID, only 4 councils in the entire state actually reduced player losses. That was Alpine, Bayside, Northern Grampians, and Stonington. Our losses increased by 13% in that period. When I read the policy, I kind of see 3 elements to it, and I think I'm correct in viewing it this way. If I'm not, please let me know. So the first element is to reduce losses from gambling by meeting council's requirements as a responsible authority in accordance with the Act 1987 and Gambling Regulation Act 2003. So I would paraphrase that as obey laws we already obey. Well, we're not obeying those, I assume. The second one is to use terms like gambling instead of gaming, something we're also already doing. And the third element of that policy is to not penalize clubs for lower risk activities where the main purpose is fundraising. So I would paraphrase that as we're not going to penalize clubs for something we currently don't penalize them for. That, to me, is the essence of this policy. So this plan, to me, and both the action plan and the policy, appear to be doing a lot less than other council plans, including like Brimbank, which has the worst losses in the state, as well as the 23 councils who are members of the Alliance for Gambling Reform. And way less comprehensive than the policies and action plans of Darabin and Hobson's Bay, who both achieved a small, like 1% reduction in gambling losses prior to COVID. So my question for the councillors who intend to endorse this plan is, what in this policy is going to reduce gambling losses in Wangaratta? To me, this looks like it's not actually doing anything different.
Thank you. Did you want to reply to this, or are you happy for us to?
Comment, but it seemed like a question for councillors as a starting point. The one thing I would say is we're not asking councillors to endorse. All I'm asking councillors to do is allow us to put it out for public consultation. So the endorsement doesn't happen until after we do the public consultation.
Just to clarify the language, so we are endorsing it today to go out for consultation, not adopting it. So a final adoption.
Yep, so I think there's something well said in there, and councillors can see what else could we do that we could also make submissions for to help reduce gambling. I think by awareness, by having a policy, and by stressing that is an awareness program there out there that we are doing certain things, which are the certain things that we've always been doing. Is there a certain statement in there stating that we aren't allowing any more poker machines to come into Wangaratta? No, we haven't gone down that pathway or anything like that. Do we look at all those things when an application would come in, or then it would come to council and it would be looked at whether council would approve it or not? That's up to a decision, because a planning matter would come in and it would come out there'd be more than 3 objections. So I can imagine it would be a council decision based on that. Any further comments on that?
Well, and just in response to your question, I think this has been a difficult one for council ever since the inception of electronic gaming machines in particular in our community, and one of the problems has been that we haven't had a policy. And I know it's not going to the answer to all the problems. I mean, the policy addresses issues around planning and how we can, prevent, gaming machines going into certain areas. Also, the way we deal with groups across the community, our responsibility to community groups that, may use gambling as a way of raising revenue. But I think more than anything, this is a community problem, and I think it's been one that's been there. It's grown bigger and more difficult, and I think we need to be working together as a community. And I'm really interested to see what this will get back to us when it goes out for consultation. We've been also within a framework of legislation across the state where we've been limited in what we've been able to do. The gambling lobby is very strong and very strong across Australia. And so, what we can do is probably quite limited. However, if our community supports us and, as a council, I think we're also limited in terms of our resources. Who's going to do what? That sort of question as well. So right now, I'm endorsing it to go out for consultation, and I hope that we get consultation back. I hope we talk about this as an issue because it is a big issue, and we need to continue to talk about it and help us frame more meat around our policy into the future.
Councillor Herrick. Thanks, Councillor Grant. Just a point of order. I don't believe we have to move the motion yet for council to talk. We're just answering the question.
So we'll have another opportunity. Thank you for the question. I think it does raise a really important point and kind of cuts to the chase we've got a serious problem in our municipality with gambling. We're not at the top, but we're in the top quartile or the top half, definitely, with respect to losses and harm experienced. And are we doing enough with this policy? I think, for me, is kind of the crux of the question. And if you look at some of our fellow municipalities, how do we compare and how does this policy compare to them? So it's a really valid question, and I guess I might, in direct response to, your question about endorsement, I might speak a little bit more to that when we've got the motion on the table, but I guess I'm not fully convinced that it is adequate, and I'll speak to those points when we're talking to the motion. However, endorsement is an opportunity to gather more information, and it isn't adoption. So just to stress that point, but I'll leave it there until we've got the motion on the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Jeremy, do you mind if I ask you something back on the
Sure.
I'll be with you in a moment. Jeremy, with the stats that have obviously seen Wangaratta's gambling rates go up, not come back at all, we don't have any information on whether that's online gambling or gambling in gambling facilities.
This is EGMs.
Yeah, right.
All-time high.
Yeah, all-time high gaming machines. So, good. Thank you. So we need to look around where the forms of gambling is coming from, why it's going up. Is it the online? Is it that with machines, etc.?
We know why. It goes up everywhere it is unless council does something. This policy literally does nothing.
Councillor?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't answer another part of the question, but I guess take an opportunity now because there's limited time later on. But as far as what does the policy do that I see it doing, I think in some areas it does, like for the planning areas, in the planning controls, we've got limited controls. I believe and have been through briefings given confidence that it is doing as much as is reasonable in the kind of planning controls that we can implement. I'm happy to hear otherwise though, but I believe some councils have really gone hard on planning restrictions, and they've often been overturned when push has come to shove. And I guess with respect to working with local clubs and advertising in council facilities, I think the policy is doing a bit there, but there are other places where I don't
Certainly
think it's doing
reinforces
enough.
what we are already doing, but nothing new. Certainly does that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that
Okay.
at this point in time. Yeah.
Thank you for your question. It'll be interesting to see when that comes back and look forward to that next meeting. Yes.
I'm speaking to Kylie Hull from
Yes,
DACE.
Kylie.
Dale, can I just ask you, does the Bulls Head Hotel and the Grand Central Hotel on Murphy Street have the poker machines? I haven't been there in many years.
No, they haven't anymore, so,
Thank you.
and they haven't got a gambling facility or a TAB either.
Yep.
So thank you.
Yep.
All right, thank you for that. We'll, Councillor Fuller.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, just Jeremy, I feel like this is a starting point and I'm very keen to hear from the community as to what more we can do in terms of rigour and steps forward. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to endorse the other second, but I will say, council is restricted in actually what we can actually achieve. We've got resources, we've got facilities through the planning scheme, but gambling's really a health problem. And somewhere along the line, some people have got to take responsibility for their own actions. And we can guide them, and we can do whatever we like. But at the end of the day, it's got to be made that they're going to have to take responsibility. And at the end of, we've got powers above us. It's legally a situation where it's allowable. So we've got to be able to balance it going forward. We have one of the lowest electronic gaming machines in the state. So if we get them right down to nothing, we're still going to have gambling because you can go online and do it with what you like there. So I think we're doing as much as we can at the moment. You say the policy doesn't do anything, doesn't give you any direction to do anything. I would question some of the data that comes out of those losses that it is going forward, because some of them have been shaded that the losses aren't as great as what they are.
Councillor Benton, I'm sorry, can you clarify that? What is
Well,
wrong
if
with
you
data?
if you go into a gambling machine and put $10 in, and the winner does everyone puts it in, you might win another 50 and put it back in again and walk out with just being $10. So, but the loss is going to be over $50, and yet
The losses are audited and they're net losses. They are literally what the community is losing. We are losing like something like $10 million a year right now.
well,
Point of order, President, Chair, please.
Yeah,
That's right.
direct back then, that's okay. We're not here to have a debate on what's happened, so we'll cancel that and we'll look for a mover of this recommendation first and to move forward, to go out to public consultation before. Councillor Fuller to move, seconder, Councillor Fitzpatrick to second. Now we can open it up for that debate. Councillor Fuller, did you want to talk on the recommendation? I know you've already talked. No further. Councillor Benton, did you want to talk further now?
I don't
think I was
answering your question. I'm supporting the document going out. I don't think I need to say any more. I will endorse it to go out to the public, and if we do, and let the thing take its process.
Great. Councillor Herrick. Sorry. You're right
If
now.
I may. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yes, so, endorsement is an interesting one. Are you endorsing it with, preempting that you're going to support it at adoption? No, definitely not. I don't think that's the way it works. And that's how I approach the endorsement of documents. So with respect to this policy, I do have some reservations at this stage in the process. Again, just to highlight that we have a serious problem with gambling in this municipality, and while we have limited controls as a municipality with respect to gambling, I personally think we should be hitting the ceiling on all those controls in all the different areas. So my question that I don't have full confidence in at this point in time is, are we bumping up against the ceiling and acknowledging we can't control everything, we can't run people's lives, are we absolutely doing the fullest, most possible we can do? So that's a question I've got. gambling is it's a really tricky one. The language in the document is sometimes a bit tricky. It's pulled out of a lot of kind of other legislation and documents, but things like community benefit, like that language around community benefit, when you've obviously got net disbenefits to community, but there's some kind of displacement, minor positive things on the side which are thrown about to kind of throw up a smoke screen and try and minimise the impact and harm. I think that's a real issue. Specifically the language of harm in the document, I do wonder whether it perpetuates some problematic use of the language by kind of anything that's not a problem gambler, which is like 0.7% of gamblers, is not a problem, but that's really not the case. And I feel the current draft kind of exacerbates that problematic language, because if you look at, you know, what a moderate risk or low risk gambler is, you know, a low risk gambler could be someone who, for example, they may very occasionally spend over their limit or feel guilty about their gambling. Like, what if their limit was, you know, stuff for the kid to go on an excursion at school the next week, or to get food on the table sort of thing. Like, it's still a significant problem, but the way it's set up, it's not really highlighted. So I'm concerned about that language in this draft policy. And another aspect of that I'm not fully confident it goes far enough in. I've already talked about planning. I think it's doing okay in the planning controls. I would like to hear feedback otherwise though. I think it's doing as much as it can do on council-owned facilities and advertising and controls in that space. Would like to hear feedback on that. I'm not fully confident in the way it handles council events and functions on pokey venues. I think it equivocates there, and I think it's speaking out both sides of its mouth with respect to allowing discretion to still do council functions or events at a venue that has EGMs, which are one of the most problematic forms of gambling alongside with the online gambling. So I would say that that's probably an area I don't think it's going as far as it reasonably can. I think I'll leave it there because I've probably run out of my time. Yes, but I'm still going to support the endorsement at this point in time and look forward to what comes back in the form of submissions from the community and do further research and reading. Mildura is another municipality that recently put out a draft, which I think goes a bit further in some spaces. And yeah, consider it at adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor, did you want to talk?
Yes, I do. Just perhaps to follow on from, you know, some of the comments that were made earlier to the question. And, you know, this policy needs to go out to the community. Our community needs to talk to us about how they see council strengthening the policy. It's really difficult, you know, it's been mentioned about planning controls. I mean, you know, I've been on council long enough to have the experience of council refusing to grant planning application for EGMs, and then that simply going to VCAT and that, you know, going through to the keeper. So I think this is a much bigger problem than just council and a policy. This is about how the community deals with this issue in the community and how it works with council to actually address the issue. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes back from people who are asking council to do more, and I'm saying, well, what are you going to do to help us with that?
Thank you, Councillor Grant. If there's no other councillors, I'll refer back to the mover, which was Councillor Fuller, to finish.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to acknowledge in closing that it is an emotional subject for some, especially those that are affected by the process. Addiction, like alcohol, it sometimes requires the individual to move past that pride and ask for help. And as a community, backing each other and helping those that need that help. But also as a community to speak up and to actually have a voice in this conversation when this is out there for them to read and to, like yourself, Jeremy, contribute to the conversation to give it rigor if that's what is felt by the community. Far too often we have side conversations but don't contribute the next step into this group to be able to then, put it into actions and get, change happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. The debate is rounded off now. I'll now put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour, and the recommendation is carried. Thank you. We'll move on to item 14.3, and again, Councillor Foley, your conflict, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor. I'm stepping out as I have a material conflict due to a family member that is adjacent to the levy bank. Thank you.
And thank you. I will also be stepping out and handing over to Councillor Bussell as the Deputy Mayor, as I too have a direct material conflict as I own property in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Now the councillors have left. 14.3, upgrade of flood levies. Marcus Goonan, Director Goonan.
Thank you, Deputy. This report is presented to Council with a recommendation to increase the award amount for the upgrade of the flood levies. During the recent rain events, some minor leaking was noticed in the levies. These locations are generally where trees have been saved and incorporated into the levy area, but now are known to have roots under the levy which are undermining the structure. These trees will need to be removed. The contract variation will also provide additional contract contingency for the remainder of the contract. The increase in the original award amount is still within the original allocated budget and no additional funding is required. The recommendation is that Council approve the increase of the contract award for an additional $310,000 and authorises the Chief Executive Officer to approve the contract documents.
Thank you, Director Goonan. Any questions from the gallery? No questions from the gallery. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Benton to move. Councillor Herrick, second. Councillor Benton, would you like to speak?
I just think it's his housekeeping really to make sure that the job is done properly and does the protection it's got to do for the township.
Thank you, Councillor Benton. Councillor Herrick? Anybody else like to speak? Thank you. I'll put that to the vote. Vote is carried. Thank you. Could you bring in two councillors, please?
Okay. Thank you. We'll go to 14.4, which is our draft waste resource recovery strategy. And again, Director Goonan.
Thank you. This report is presented to Council to seek approval to undertake community consultation on the draft waste and resource recovery strategy 23 to 27. The waste and resource recovery strategy has been developed in response to the rapidly changing waste management environment and the legislative and policy framework changes. This strategy will set the direction for development and delivery of waste management and resource services by the rural city up to 2027. The strategy is deliberately only looking to 2027 as it is anticipated that this will bring us into alignment with future state government requirements for the development of updated local government strategies and plans once the state level documents have been completed. Whilst the current 2018 strategy is not due to expire until the end of this year, most of the major actions have been completed, and with significant changes in the industry over the past couple of years, the development of a new strategy has been brought forward. The recommendation is that council endorses the draft waste and resource recovery strategy for public exhibition for 28 days, reviews and considers all submissions. If no submissions are required, the waste resource recovery strategy is adopted without further council resolution.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions from the gallery on this item? No, I'll look for a mover, please, for this one. Councillor Grant and Councillor Herry as a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Grant. Did you want to talk on this recommendation?
Well, only to say that waste and resource recovery is, I think, one of our most important environmental issues, and one that I think, you know, from my perspective, looking at, you know, how it's developed over a long period of time, I don't know that, you know, we've actually quite reached the point where we're getting it right, and doing as much as we possibly can. I'd like to see much more done in that circular economy around, you know, the waste that we create and how we use it into the future. And I know that we go through until 2027, which is, I think, you know, in that time I'm hoping that, you know, improvements are developed and we can actually see new ways of doing things better into the future. So again, it is something that we're endorsing here tonight, but it's going to go out into the community again. You know, nothing's possible without community input and community support. So I'm certainly looking forward to the community being part of this, because one of the things that has been, you know, obvious in the way that we manage waste is the fact that community continue to do the wrong thing in terms of the way that they throw the waste away. So with that, I'm moving that we accept the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Councillor Herry, did you want to talk on the recommendation, please? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Rees, yeah, it certainly is an important area, and it's an area that's got a lot of focus, a lot of activity happening, a lot going on at the state level, as Director Goonan and others have kind of highlighted. And this is it's a relatively concise document for a strategy, but it is kind of working to keep prep and groundwork and necessary works continuing with a view to 2027 and seeing some of those kind of state level initiatives roll out, and being prepared to be best placed as they unfold to take advantage and engage with those and hit the ground running. So I don't doubt that some community members might have some ideas around areas they would like to see further expansion in the document, but we'll see that as it comes in the submissions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor would like to talk on the recommendation? No? Councillor Grant, did you want to talk to end off? Are you okay?
No, I'm looking forward to hearing what the community has to say.
Submissions. Thank you. I'll put the recommendations vote. All those in favour? And the recommendation is carried. Director Goonan, 14.5 is the C35781 septic tank upgrade through Whitfield Adventure Play Space and additional works.
Thank you. This report is presented to council to approve the increase in contract award value required due to changes in scope for the construction of the Whitfield Adventure Play Space. Horse upgrade and additional works on the existing septic tank have required these additional costs, including that the toilet would not be operational without these changes to meet the new standards. The increase in the original award amount is within the originally allocated budget and no additional funding is required. The decision is that council approves the contract value increase to the value of $80,000 and authorises the Chief Executive Officer to approve.
Thank you, Director. If there's no questions from the gallery on this item, I'll look for a mover, Councillor Bussell and Councillor Fitzpatrick. Councillor Bussell, did you want to talk on the recommendation?
Yeah, I'm just pleased that we've been able to find the funds to do this. This play space will be truly amazing, I'm sure, for the families and children that use it, and I just can't wait for the whole project to be finished. Thank you.
Councillor Fitzpatrick, did you want to talk?
Councillor
Said one, thank you.
Yep.
Any other councillors like to talk on the recommendation? Councillor Bustle, you're right to put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And the recommendation is carried. Thank you, Director Goonan, for your input today. I will now move on to sustainability and culture and look forward to Stephen Swart at 15.1. But I'll first look to Irene Grant, to Councillor Grant. Your conflict, please, again.
A material conflict, as I'm a resident in the area being considered in the strategy.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Fitzpatrick.
have a material conflict as a family member lives in the vicinity of the area.
Okay, thank you. C.M. McGrath, I don't need you to mention yours as I've heard you mention it early on. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Director Swart. This is our low density rural and residential strategy for Wangaratta initial investigation report. I look forward to your summary.
Thank you. Council's low density and rural living strategy was prepared to provide an analysis of future needs of low density and rural residential zoned land and respond with long-term strategies and actions. Council previously adopted the rural part of that strategy and required further investigation of land in and around Wangaratta. These further investigations have been completed and a report has been prepared to capture this work and associated recommendations. The draft low density and rural residential strategy Wangaratta additional investigations report October 2023 is attached to the agenda and is presented to Council for endorsement for the purpose of public exhibition. If endorsed, the recommendation is to make the report available for public comment from the 3rd of November through to the 1st of December.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions from the gallery? Thank you. I do have a public question that was written in by from Peter Forsyth. Mayor reads Wangaratta councillors, as a result of the significant work undertaken by the Planning Department over the past 5 years regarding the 2019 Urban Enterprise Wangaratta Low Density and Rural Zone Strategy. What is the current status and formal position of council regarding the provision of the 450 LDRZ, low density residential, and RRZ, which is rural residential, lots over the next 15 years? When does Wangaratta Council estimate the revised 2019 Urban Enterprise LDRZ and RRZ strategy will be ready to present to Council? Director Swart, did you want to answer that part one of the question there first?
Yes, I will. Thank you. In December 2021, Council adopted the low density and rural residential strategy as it applies to rural locations, but not the parts relating to Wangaratta. Work has progressed to implement the adopted part of the strategy by preparing a planning scheme amendment and submitting that planning scheme amendment to the Minister for Planning for authorisation. For the Wangaratta part of the strategy, Council requested further work to be undertaken to investigate the potential rezoning of land in Wangaratta. The outcome of these investigations is being presented to Council today in the form of a draft report.
Thank you. Director, question 2 in 3 parts. Are Wangaratta Council personally satisfied with the progress of the delivery of the new supply of LDRZ and RRZ lots in the rural city of Wangaratta? 2, is there priority being given to Wangaratta Council to the finalisation of the rural strategy that began in 2015? And if not, what is going to take place to increase the supply of land, given the footprint of safe land is shrinking following each catastrophic fire and flood episode?
Thank you. The first part of that, councillors have been updated on the progress of the low density and rural residential strategy as it has occurred, including both the planning scheme amendment and for the rural components and further investigation of land for the Wangaratta component. The second part of that question, Council's priority is implementing the adopted part of the low density and rural residential strategy and completing further work on the Wangaratta component of the strategy. And the final part of that question, progressing both the rural and Wangaratta components of the strategy is an attempt to ensure that a sufficient supply of low density and rural residential land is available across the municipality. The strategy work considered natural hazards such as fire and flood.
Thank you, Director. I will also, as that first part of question 2 from Peter Forsyth there, I would like to answer that in a statement that I will release upon us putting this item on the table to be moved and seconded, and I will talk to that part of it too as well.
Mary,
Yes.
could I just jump in and say something to
Yeah, no,
at this point in time?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess I just want to highlight that like rural living zone and that style of housing, while housing choice I think is a quality that the planning scheme and state planning regulations kind of support. I don't believe, I'm happy to be corrected, but I don't believe there's any kind of absolute mandate or necessity to have that style of property, in a certain quantity. So I mean, if the supply runs out because there's no more safe land, well, you don't build it, and you build other forms of housing, which, might I say, don't give you certain qualities of lifestyle that some people might pursue and value, but have a lot of other benefits with a lot less of the disbenefits that do come with the rural living zone kind of low density style of development, which consumes a lot of land, isn't particularly sustainable, requires vehicle transport, etc., etc. So I just wanted to say that to Bob there in response to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I have a mover for this recommendation, please? Going forward, Councillor Benton, Councillor Bustle as a seconder. Councillor Benton, did you want to talk on the recommendation?
The only thing that I would really encourage is the people that are affected in this area to respond, either positive or negative. I think we need that feedback both ways to make sure this is a satisfaction going forward. And I'm not going to debate Councillor Herry on the issues of supply and demand, but the market will always sort that out at the end of the day. And we try to cater for a wide market there, and that's the reason why we have the different zones in the municipality planning. And I think once we start directing one way or another, housing is a shortage, and you push pressure back onto other market forces within the housing industry. I just once again urge people that are possibly going to watch it on streaming to get read it, understand it, and ask questions, and get back to us, please.
Thank you, Councillor Benton. Councillor Bustle, did you want to speak on the recommendation?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say that, sure, I'd like this to have happened quicker, but given the staff we've got, I think the staff have done a very, very good job here. So I'm very happy with the council's position, how long it's taken, but it's not finished yet. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Herry, did you want to talk further?
Yeah, I guess I mean we're looking for good planning outcomes at the end of the day. We certainly don't jump to market demand. I'll leave it there, and yeah, look forward to the endorsement and any submissions that come as a result. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to talk on the market demand. The market demand is high. Prices are very expensive at the moment in Wangaratta. I believe that the release of more land will make it more affordable. We're struggling with sewer on general residential land as we speak now, and this will go on for the next 5 years of plugging into sewer. We need more rural residential land in different sizes, whether 5 acre, 2 acre and 1 acre allotments, as in without being able to hook into sewer. I think we need to change the whole approach to that part of it. And reason no more, it confuses me when our planning laws state that we need a minimum of 15 years supply, and all of a sudden we, as a minimum, we go to 20 years supply and they say that's too much. So we go to 16, no, you have to get back down to 15. But that's always a minimum. Why can't we have it for 30 years supply? People want to develop it and move forward with that. Now we've got the terms of changing zoning, we've got the windfall gain tax hassles that are going to come in, so people won't subdivide and do their land as much as what we have. We have people willing and able. I believe we should be looking further into those people and getting their land subdivided and being able to change zoning that way. My personal opinion in the real estate industry for all of my life. And I feel that we're selling acre properties at $500,000 without a house. How affordable is that? By having more supply, that will reduce pricing in all forms of land. So I'm a strong supporter of reviewing this further and putting comments in and support some of what Peter Forsyth has to say, that we need to expand on these programs directly today. Thank you. I'll now hand back to Councillor Benson. If you don't want to reply, thank you. I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And the recommendation is carried. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now we'll move on to Ash and Irene coming down. Ready?
Yeah, you had a good reading answer.
Good. Hope you finished sweeping the path I started.
Oh, no, it's more high level than that.
We'll move on to 18.1, which is the minutes of the advisory committee meetings that we had for the audit and risk committee. It's been in attachments there. If there's no questions from the gallery on 18.1 for noting of these minutes, I'll put the recommendation to the vote, and I'll thank you, Councillor Fitzpatrick, to move that recommendation, Councillor Bussell to second it. Did any councillor want to talk on the noting? I'll put that recommendation to the vote, that all those in favour, and the recommendation is carried. Ladies and gentlemen, now move down to public question time. There's no other minutes. I do have a public question to read on behalf of the Rainbow Local Government, and the question is as follows, and I'll look to Director Goonan for his reply. Rainbow Local Government asked the following questions for the council meeting on the 31st of October. Could council please provide an update, including a timeline, on the development of the Inclusive Wangaratta framework and action plans, and will one of these action plans focus on the LGBTQIA+ community? Director Goonan.
Thank you very much for your question. The Inclusive Wangaratta group has been guided by 14 community members with diverse lived experience. We've met twice as a full group and had additional meetings with the Tidy team at North West Health and also the Youth Action Group at Council. The plan is intersectional, considering the needs of our diverse population, and that includes the LGBTIQA+ members. We've drafted an additional framework and action plan with the group, and we'll seek additional feedback from the wider community shortly.
Thank you, Director Goonan. Great response. Public question time. Is there anybody in the public gallery? Please, Jeremy.
Yeah, my understanding of the gambling policy draft is that it stems from a 2017 council resolution that the council draft a gambling policy. Why did it take 6 years to draft a policy that is a few paragraphs explaining what we've been doing since then, basically?
It's a good question. You want to handle that? Yep. Yep.
So Jeremy, it comes down to resource, unfortunately, like lots of these things do. We have a significant number of items within the community council plan, and also then a further number of items within the community wellbeing plan. It has been on our radar for some time, but as you say, it could have been 6 years. I'm not 100% sure on the exact number of years. We do have quite significant processes that council goes through when we are looking to get a consultant or something like that on board from a procurement process point of view. Obviously coming back, sitting in front of councillors, we provide data, etc. So, albeit you just see the end of it, which you might say is a shortish document, you don't see the 18 to 2 years worth of work that goes on before it actually gets to this point of coming out into the public. But certainly appreciate that it definitely was an item that sat on the council plan for quite some time before it was actioned. Absolutely.
Did you have another question, Jeremy? Sorry. That was all right, Secretary. Anyone else from the public gallery have a question? Yes, sir.
Brian Lawrence from Beechwood Bar.
G'day, Brian.
Just wondering what processes we use to advertise tonight's council meeting.
Sure.
And clearly, I'm disappointed with the number of people in the gallery, but maybe the word didn't get out there.
Yeah, it has been advertised on our council website.
Page.
Yeah, and a page advertised in the local paper every week leading up to the last, say, 3 or 4 weeks. We take a full page or half a page every week in the local paper. Some of these country meetings we get a lot of people turn up with the community. I know the last one we had out at Springhurst, we had a huge turn up out there, and hence that's why we do 3 or 4 of these meetings out in country areas every year. And we swap times as well in the city when we do them at 6 o'clock or we do them at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We get a different range of people every time, and it's great to see people from the community come out and do it. It's great to see Jeremy, who lives in town, to also come out. We do appreciate people coming out from in town as well, but would have been nice to see a few more. Good to see Kylie here, who's at most of our meetings, so thank you, Kylie. I'm not sure what we can do next time. We have just adopted doing more meetings out in the country for our next year, 2024, and we'll certainly have a look at our marketing program to make sure that we get as many people of the local community out there, whether it's in local newspapers or local booklets. I know Irene's looked at a booklet there for one of our people out of Breeder. You've seen there. We'd be advertising in those local news bits and pieces, newsletters for local communities to make sure they're out there.
Word community through their banner,
The banner.
newsletter, and that's a great way of doing it. And social media, obviously, but sometimes it just is that people have got something else to do, and council's way down low on the agenda in terms of interest, unless it directly affects them. And that's why I'm a great advocate for people to come and talk to council rather than stand there with their hands on their hips and complain.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, a really good question. I guess it is disappointing, and I often think about the concept of civic engagement, and it's critically important that we do have a community that is engaged and participating in the decisions that affect their lives. I certainly don't think we do enough to facilitate and promote civic engagement as a broader, bigger concept. We don't have civic engagement sort of programs explicitly. Not to discount that we are doing putting documents on exhibition and all of those sorts of things, which are kind of conducting civic business, but we're making improvements. Like, we have the community engagement portal, which is going up shortly, and I think that's a step in the right direction, which is about trying to increase the level of engagement. And if we've got a community engagement portal, maybe with documents that they're getting more visibility, maybe have more of a sense of influence and ability to have input on decisions, maybe that will result in a greater number of people turning up to the meetings where the documents and issues they've engaged with are being discussed, debated, decided upon. But yeah, it's a good question, and it deserves our attention and some more consideration and thought, I think. Thank you.
And Jack, I appreciate what you're saying there, but we don't have an endless budget to be able to employ 3 or 4 other people just to handle all those different things. We've got to work out what's what and what's more important. Let's get back to
the
the core statistics of roads, rates and rubbish and a bit more, so we look forward to that. So at that, ladies and gentlemen, I will call the evening to an end, and I will state that we're coming up to the month of November tomorrow, and it is November, and I just thought I'd mention that, and I've been cheating. I've started growing my mow before November. Remember, this is for men's health, prostate and testicular cancer, so get on board, support November. Jeremy, you're right to go for November.
And beard emperor.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending our meeting here tonight, and look forward to seeing you in the future. Good night, everybody.
And it's also